Okay, Charles, good to go.
Okay. So before we start the meeting, I'd like to read a land acknowledgement. The land on which we meet here has been here from time immemorial. People have inhabited Southern Ontario for about 10,000 years, and we acknowledge the neutral people, also called Attawandaron, Anishinaabe, and Haudenosaunee, people who lived here when settlers arrived and who shared this land with us. May we together learn to care for and respect each other, our flora and fauna, and the land we inhabit together. So I would like to remind the committee and the members of the public that this meeting is being recorded and live streamed to the township's YouTube channel. This meeting is being held electronically due to the COVID-19 pandemic. Precautions and measures are in place regarding social distancing to ensure the health and safety for those in attendance at the municipal office. Anyone who is registered to participate in this meeting will be invited to speak in the order of the applications being heard. I will now do a roll call of the committee for the benefit of the public watching this meeting. When I call your name, please wave at your camera and say here or present. I, Charles Zeidler, are present and chairing this meeting. Committee members and staff, Tim Cronin.
I'm here.
Linda Dixon.
Present.
Hans Potkamper.
Present.
David Gundrum, which is the planner.
Present.
And Nancy Thompson, our recording secretary.
Present.
Perfect. I will provide an explanation of the procedures for this meeting. Each application will be read by Nancy, and she will ask each applicant to make a brief presentation not to exceed 10 minutes. The committee will be given an opportunity to question the applicant. Any other person who has registered with the recording secretary and is wishing to address an application either for or against will be given the opportunity to speak. Please make sure at that time you have turned on your microphone and video and identify yourself clearly for the recording secretary. After everyone has had an opportunity to speak, the committee will make a decision on the application. Once discussion on your application is complete, please mute your microphone and turn off your video. You are free to leave the meeting at this time or remain to listen to the balance of the applications. The applicants are advised that each application has a 20-day appeal period as required under the Planning Act. The last day of appeal for the applications being heard today is June 9th, 2022. So at this time, I will ask any members of the committee if they are declaring a pecuniary conflict of interest with any of the applications.
No.
No.
Nope. Okay. And then Nancy, I will ask you to read the first application, please.
Thanks, Charles. First application this evening is minor variance application A11-2022 for Levi Fry for the property at 2144 King Street North. The property is zoned agricultural and contains a detached dwelling, a welding/woodworking shop, livestock barns, drive shed, and accessory structures. The applicant is requesting a relief from section 6.10.2A of the general regulations to reduce the required building line setback adjacent to a road, King Street North, from 7.6 meters to approximately 5 meters to permit an addition to the dwelling for an accessory dwelling unit and attached garage. The 6.7 hectare property is located at the corner of King Street North and 3 Bridges Road. Levi, if you'd like to address the committee on your application.
Okay. Like,
Did you have anything? Did you have anything further to add for the committee?
Not that I am aware of, no.
Okay, thanks, Levi. Charles, there's nobody from
Okay.
the public to speak to this application.
Okay. Do any committee members have any questions of the applicant? Tim?
I have one question, just a note here, and maybe just bring what I read on the presentation presented. It shows the attached garage being on the, I'd say, looking at the picture on the right-hand side of the print, and we're asking in the approval here to make the garage back 6 meters from the road, which is further, but it shows, if I'm reading this print correct, it's showing that as being the closest point to the road at 5 meters. So I just want to make sure the applicant's aware that we're asking for the garage to be back 6 meters from the road or from the property line.
Okay, Mr. Fry?
Yes, I'm aware of that, and I think that should be okay.
Thank you. Those are my only questions. Thanks, Charles.
Perfect. Thanks, Tim. Anybody else have any questions? Go ahead, Linda.
So through you, Mr. Chair, it's actually a question to staff, to David, our planner, and I'm just trying to find it here. With respect to the conditions for this application, can you give me further clarification on item B? I'm not sure I understand the meaning of that condition.
Yeah, through the chair, Member Dixon, to clarify, this is to ensure that this is in reference to any new detached garage or attached garage that may result, to ensure that it conforms to the zoning bylaw requirement setback of 6 meters in that case. The nature of the relief being asked for pertains to just to the addition that would contain the accessory unit, so that's what we're dealing with tonight. And this condition is just to ensure that the relief being requested doesn't also cross apply to that type of structure as well. So
Okay,
does
thank
that
you.
help? Okay.
And if I may, Mr. Chairman, through you again, probably to staff. So I'm looking at the lot configuration, along the lot line along the frontage of this, and I totally understand the distance and everything. I don't really have any concerns, but I'm just wondering, because visually looking at the sketch versus visually when you're out there, definitely the driveways aren't on the road allowance, but and according to this, it is. So is there an easement, or is there some reason why there's this lot line configuration is there proposed future development along there? It's just not that straight line and it juts in, and I mean, it's a rural road, so I'm just curious.
Yeah, through the chair, Member Dixon, I'm not aware that there is an easement through there, and I can't comment on specifically on the history why the road is a bit more, I call it a misalignment through that area. It could have been that a road widening was taken at some point in the past by the municipality. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members have any questions? Nope. And I know there's no members of the public wanting to speak on this application. So does any committee member want to see how we want to handle this one? Tim?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that minor variance application A11-2022 concerning the property at 2144 King Street North, requesting relief from zoning bylaw 6.10.2A, permit the building addition, an accessory building setback of 5 meters from King Street North. Be approved, subject to A, the building line setback of 5 meters respect to King addition, and B, that the minimum distance from any garage facing street line is not less than 6 meters.
And do we have a seconder for that?
I'll
Hans?
second.
Thanks, Hans. And all those in favor? Okay, so that motion has been passed. Mr. Fry, so again, just to let you know, be aware of the deadline for the appeal period, which is June 9th, 2022. Mr. Fry, are you there? Leaving?
Hello?
Hi, did you hear that?
Levi, did you hear the decision?
I'm grabbing some connection issues.
I think so. I have an email, I have an email address for Mr. Fry, so I will follow up with him.
Awesome. Thank you, Nan.
Perfect, thanks. The next application this evening is minor variance application A12 2022 for Honor Rock Christian School of Waterloo Region for the property at 28 Catherine Street South in Winterburn. The property is zoned institutional and contains a private elementary school. The applicant is requesting a relief from section 24.3.4 to reduce the required rear yard setback from 7.5 meters to approximately 3.6 meters to permit the installation of 3 classroom portables. The property is located at the corner of Catherine Street South and Peel Street in Winterburn. And Matthew Robinson is here to speak to the application.
Good afternoon, everybody. Hi there. I won't take too much time speaking because I think the application is pretty clear, but I just say we are trying to find a bit more space for our students, and we spend a lot of time trying to figure out where the best place to be with these portables. And just looking at our property, we've just been trying to find a spot that works well in terms of the land use and the community use of our playgrounds. So we're trying to tuck them in there behind the school. It's also good for us because it's close to the building for the students to be able to come and go. We've got 2 existing entryways along that side of our school, which is like to the left side of our school. So for us to have these buildings a little closer to the school building is a real benefit. The other locations that we would have to consider would likely be much further away from the main building. And then to have them mostly kind of tucked into an unused kind of part of our property and somewhat out of sight along the side there for the streetscape. That was our thinking, and that's why we've put this application in today. It's just really for us the best, we think the best spot for these buildings to go on the property. Yeah, I'm happy to try and answer any questions that anybody might have. I'll do my best.
Thanks, Matt.
Yep.
So do any members of the committee have any question for Mr. Robinson? No? Go ahead, Linda.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, through you to the applicant. So I hear what you're saying. So I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, and I totally appreciate the location. Can you give me an indication of what grades we're talking about here in terms of travel distance and things like that, and easy access to the school?
I can try. It'll likely vary from year to year depending on the mix of kids we have in a given year. We wouldn't hope to have these buildings there forever. I suppose nobody would. For me, I would say that, I would always be aiming to program the oldest students in our school into those buildings as often as I can. But that also has to do with the number of students that might be in a particular class. So we're a K-8 school. Obviously,
Okay,
I'm never going to put kinder in there. Yep.
Okay.
Does that answer it?
Yep, that's helpful. Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you, Linda. Any other members have any questions of the applicant? Okay, not looking like it. And Nancy, was there any members of the public here to speak of in this one?
Yes, Jesse Shearholtz is here to, I believe, provide some comment.
Thank you. Hi, Jesse.
Hi, how are you doing? Yeah, my name is Jesse Sherholt, and I live and own 36 Catherine Street South. We live right next door to the school. First of all, I'd like to thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak and express our concerns. I'm not a public speaker, so I may just read from my notes if that's okay.
Absolutely.
We have a few points of concern regarding the application. Number one is the stormwater runoff from the school. We believe there may be a need for an engineered stormwater plan. Because of the past flooding and potential future flooding, we believe any variance to the setback is not minor and may have a greater impact on our property. There's a possibility that the existing stormwater infrastructure at the school is inadequate. Number four, we do believe there's going to be, well, decreased privacy, and lastly, increased noise, especially related to HVAC equipment. One of our major concerns is that we may actually see greater adverse impacts to our property from water. This has happened in the past, as you can see from the pictures that we actually submitted. In that instant, we had thousands, maybe tens of thousands of gallons of water impact our property and other properties near us at the school's lot line. In our case, our weeping bed became saturated, which resulted in our plumbing backing up and flooding our basement due to the backyard basically draining through the weeping bed and our septic system. The second time it happened, I noticed it was caused by a stormwater well on the school property. Apparently there are pumps discharging into this well. From a visual inspection, this well did not have the capacity to accommodate the stormwater. This resulted in the flooding of our yard and also the yard behind us. We have 2 short videos of the flooding if you require them. We believe there is a major stormwater issue. As far as the well is concerned, the Ministry of the Environment may need to be involved to assess whether the school has properly maintained this well, or if there's a potential risk of groundwater contamination and impact to the surrounding drinking water wells. Because of this flooding, we would like to have the existing rear setback, which acts as a buffer zone, stay as is, not reduced. The addition of 3 33-foot buildings, considering the roof, rainwater load, and the reduction of ground cover along this lot line may have an adverse effect to our property. We may see more flooding. I believe the reduction of the rear setback will result in an unacceptable noise impact for us and the classrooms, an increase in noise levels due to HVAC equipment, especially from air conditioning or exhaust fans, or if dehumidification is needed in the proposed structure due to air quality and humidity. It appears these are elevated structures and mold and mildew may become a problem if they're located in this area. These structures are being placed next to a stormwater drainage ditch, which contains a catch basin, which also did not work in the past. The area where the portable classrooms would be located may actually be a major stormwater runoff zone. There seems to be a lot of roof drains discharging in this area from the school's roof. At this point, we feel the school's existing stormwater drainage infrastructure has been compromised or is inadequate, as you can again see from the pictures we submitted. Due to the documented flooding issues, we feel that a professional engineered stormwater management design would be needed to identify and correct the existing deficiencies before going further with development along this lot line. Summarize. We are concerned about any reductions of the setback due to potential water issues, increased noise, reduced privacy. We are not trying to stop the development of the school's property. The school has over 6 acres and other options are possible. This could be done without the reduction of the rear yard setback and could avoid an impact on other properties. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Charles. Do any members of the committee have any questions for the speaker? No, none. Okay, and Nancy, he was the only one that wanted to speak on this application?
Correct, Charles. Thank you.
Okay, perfect. So how would the committee like to handle this application? Linda, go ahead.
So thank you, Mr. Chairman, through you. I am not making a motion at this time. I do have some questions, but these are more directed to staff. based on what we've heard and what I've seen from information given to the committee prior to the meeting. So with respect to the placement of these portables, so if they didn't need the rear yard setback, if they could meet that, they could be placed there. But what are the requirements for their placement in terms of engineering permits, stormwater, all of that? What are the requirements for these portables? Because they can be fairly large. So, and I totally appreciate the runoff issue and, you know, effects from other property owners onto yours, as we have similar issues in the springtime as well too. So not to the same degree, but I'm just curious as to what's required. Do you have that information?
So through the chair, Member Dixon, there is a condition. This application was reviewed by development engineering staff at the township, and condition C flowed through from their review. Our engineering staff weren't of the opinion that this would warrant a full-blown, these additional roof areas wouldn't warrant a full-blown engineered study for stormwater management, but they did note the condition that no additional drainage be directed towards the adjacent land. So if there are downspouts coming off of these structures, that flow would be directed away from the adjacent property, is my estimation. I will note for the committee that the permit drawings that we received separately for the building permit application, these structures would be essentially built on sonotube pilings or stilts, for lack of a better word. So they would be elevated off the ground. They wouldn't be resting directly on the ground in that respect. So there'd be limited grading work that would have to be done to accommodate these limited ground disturbance. So I hope, does that help answer your question, Member Dixon?
So is it going to be remain grass, or will there be gravel, etc.? I don't know if that's a question for you. Maybe that's a question for the applicant in terms of what the plan is to put under the portables.
Yeah, I'll defer to the applicant. Based on the permit drawings we received, I don't detect that they would be slab on grade, that there would be remaining grass underneath, but perhaps I'll defer to Mr. Robinson to correct me if I'm wrong or provide more detail.
Oh, that is correct. Each building has, I think, 16 individual pilings, where each individual piling spot would be placed, and the remaining grass would still be there. So basically 16 blocks per building. The remaining grade and grass underneath would stay.
Thank you. Hans?
I have concerns about stormwater management as well. We're turning a grassy area into a hard surface that's impermeable, and the water is going to drain off quickly. And from the sounds of it, there are already concerns about runoff during wet periods. So my question would be to the applicant is, how do you plan on dealing with that, without being a detriment both to the school and to the neighbors?
Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, I can say that I just haven't had a ton of time to honestly consider what we can do. I do think that the area these portables are being placed is not specifically an area that is prone to flooding. I think the area that that Jesse's referring to is further back. That isn't a well. It's a storm drain. And on those icy years, it did back up there, or something was going on where the ice, built up all on the land and the water seemed to flow everywhere. I do think that there may be some need in the future to look at drainage around our property, especially if we ever to do any kind of actual major kind of development. Of course, we're happy to look at trying to direct the water away. I'm happy to ask Weitzel Dice Engineering to come to, to look into that and how we go about the install.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Just quickly, sorry, but David, did you not mention that there would have to be engineers for that as part of the conditions?
No, there's no condition on that.
Oh,
No, yeah,
like engineering.
sorry, Chairman Zeidler, the condition that we have that came through from our development engineering staff states that condition that no ground disturbance occurs within 0.6 meters of the rear lot line, the south lot line, and that no additional drainage be directed towards the adjacent lands. So on the basis of the comments we got from our staff, they didn't indicate they were of the opinion that an engineered study was required in this instance.
Okay, thank you. Hans, did that answer your question?
Not entirely. Normally, when one develops a property, one is required to not have more runoff than before the property is developed. And in this case, you're creating 3 hard surface roofs that are going to run off quickly, especially in heavy rains. And I'd like to make sure that that runoff does not cause problems on adjacent property, or for that matter, for the school.
Okay, thank you, Hans. Tim.
A comment on the, and through you, Chair, to staff. And the applicant did make note that they would consider, if they have to do some groundwater or some runoff drainage things in the future. So we have C that says no ground disturbance will occur, and I'm a little concerned of putting it at no disturbance. I'd rather see something in there that if some study would require it to be disturbed to increase or change the drainage pattern, but instead of saying no, you can't do it, I'd rather have something in there saying that that disturbance in some way of creating that is possible if drainage. If an engineer just tells us that we need to make the ditch deeper or do something to increase the drainage, that we could do it rather than limit it to not disturbing it at all, as long as these portables are there. So I do agree with that no additional drainage directed to the adjacent lands. I think that answers a bit of Hans' questions. If they drain the hard surface water is being drained away from the property line, that would help. I'd just like to see us being able to allow for remedial work if that is what is deemed necessary, as opposed to saying you can't do anything to it. If you had just so to make it into a question, staff, Dave, do you have any version that would help address that concern for us?
I guess through the chair, Member Cronin, the committee does have the power to either alter, add, or delete the suggested conditions. So my suggestion would be that if the committee has some reservations, hesitations about what's been provided as the recommendation with the approved conditions, like you could invoke an additional condition for, let's say, a review of stormwater on the site. Like stormwater management brief, that additional review could be done as condition to the variance that would have to be fulfilled before a building permit could be issued. So that certainly is a place that the committee could go, provided if committee still has concerns after hearing Mr. Shireholtz's statements concerning his property and just generally. So.
Just to thank you, through the chair. Just to say, I'm not suggesting that we add additional requirements to it. I just want to change the that one requirement to no disturbance. That disturbance will only be at recommendations from an engineer, so that that if it is recommended to change it, that it could be. But I don't see putting additional requirements on. The roof drainage is going to be away from that already, so we're not adding any new water that isn't already there. But I just want to change that to the ground disturbance would only be allowed recommendations of an engineer.
Through the chair, member Cronin, we can certainly revise the condition to read as such that that additional level of review would be wrapped up in that aspect. Yes.
Thank you. That's all my comments, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Tim. Linda, go ahead.
So I hear Tim's comments, and I appreciate the piece about the disturbance. With respect to the stormwater management, I'm not sure if I'm going to get at it through what I'm referring to, and I'm not sure the right way to ask it, but I think we need to look at that condition a little more closely. And I don't like just the catch-all drainage. I'm not sure that that covers it. I think Hans has spoken to the term stormwater management, and I like that all drainage and stormwater generated from the development of the three portables, from the development and operation. I think that's probably, and operation of the three portables shall be maintained, contained, managed on the school site. My concern with that, though, is that reading is, how do we tie that into the variance? Prior to final occupancy? I don't know. I don't know. I want to ensure that when they're developed, that and everything that's done there's no drainage issues at all, or future consideration for drainage issues. I think I totally support and respect that staff, building department, and that will look after it. I think I'm just trying to find some assurances from the neighbor as well too, because I know if I was sitting there and having that issue, that would be concerning to me as well, especially when they're that close. The only other question I did have sorry, Charles, through you to staff or to the applicant. I don't want a fence because I think that'll add, I've seen those add drainage problems as well too, but whether there's any thought to some kind of natural vegetation along the lines of the portables, just to try and maybe help with some buffering for privacy.
Mr. Robinson?
Yeah, we'd be happy to do that. I think that was indicated that we had a representative speak with Jesse a while ago, so a few weeks ago, I suppose, that we were going to be putting this application in, did indicate we'd be happy to try and plant a hedge or something natural along, the backside of these portables, or do something that would be that would make them nicer. In whatever way for him.
Okay, thank you. I'm not sure if that helps you, Linda, or?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Tim?
Not to belay the thanks, just to, so Linda, for Linda, are you looking to reword C? Did you come up with some wording there that you preferred to cover this off because you weren't happy with the catch also? Looking for a suggestion on what direction you're going with wording on that.
And I just lost my committee of adjustment file. There we go. That's what I read. What I had come up with was that all drainage / stormwater generated from the development / operation of the three new portables shall be maintained, contained, managed on the school site. And then maybe add in there, and that a natural vegetation buffer be provided along the rear lot line between the three new portables. That would be my wording, but.
So the question is that replacing C with that, or is that sort of an additional, is that D?
No, that was the addition from all drainage piece. And that's why I said I've lost my committee, so I
So
can't.
that no additional drainage fee is directed to the adjacent land. You're replacing that line with your wording there.
Yeah, the
Does
piece where you
anybody-
talked about the engineered piece, we would leave that too.
Can I ask our secretary if she has an idea of how to word this, Nancy, that you understand where this is going?
Yeah, thanks, Tim. So if I'm understanding correctly, the committee's choosing to replace clause C as it currently reads with the wording that Linda had. I can read it again here, that all drainage and stormwater management generated from the development and operation of the 3 portables shall be maintained, contained, managed on the school site, and that a natural vegetation buffer be added along the rear of the portables. However, Linda, you did make comment there about some other engineering requirement, and I'm not sure what that was in reference to. My apologies.
Well, that's in relation to the first part of C and what Tim was talking to. So I don't want to take away from that. So maybe what the best way to deal with this is we do separate it out and make mine a D, and then the wording that Tim had for that no ground disturbance, and he had something with respect to engineering in there, stay as C to try and cover it off.
That no ground disturbance will occur unless approved by an engineer.
Okay, so just to recap then, clause C would read that no ground disturbance occur unless approved by an engineer within 0.6 meters of the rear bracket south lot line, and that no additional drainage is directed towards adjacent lands. And then a new clause D would be as noted earlier with Linda's comment on the drainage and the requirement for vegetation. Is that grasping what the committee is looking for? Amending clause C and addition of clause D.
Sounds about right, Linda?
I'm good with that. If Tim's good with that.
Tim?
I'm good with that. If everybody's good with that wording, I'm not tied into saying engineers. If there's better wording, I'm open to that. But you have the effect that if someone, some study tells us we need to change solid grading or something, that there's a way to make it happen.
Okay. And Hans, you were okay with that new wording as well by the looks of things?
Yes, I am.
think you nodded in approval. I'll give Nancy a second here.
Yeah, I'm
Oh.
good. I'm good, Charles. I've got that typed out. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions from the committee? No. Perfect. And so how would the committee like to handle this one? Tim?
Okay, I'll try this out with the motion that minor variance application A12-2022 Foundation Christian School concerning subject property as 28 Catherine Street South in Winnipeg, requesting relief from zoning bylaw 24.3 to permit a set of 3 detached structure school portable accessories to existing school use, having reduced minimum rear yard setback of 3.6 meters, whereas zoning bylaw requires a minimum rear yard setback on half the building height, but in no case less than 7.5 meters to institutional zone for building or structure be approved, subject to A, B, C revised, and D as the wording that Linda provided.
Thank you, Tim. And we have a seconder for that.
I'll second that.
Thanks, Hans. And then we'll vote on that. So all in favor? And that's everyone. So that motion has been passed. Mr. Robinson, I'm sure you heard the amendments to the application. And just a reminder then as well that there's an appeal date that expires on June 9th of 2022.
Yep, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Thank you, Mr. Sharholz.
Okay, the next applications for this evening are minor variance application A 13, 2022 and consent applications B 15, 2022 and B 16, 2022 for Matthias Mueller at 6 Covered Bridge Drive in Westmont Rose. The property is zoned settlement residential R1 with an F suffix with floodplain regulations and contains a single detached dwelling and accessory buildings. The applicant is proposing to create a new residential lot and is requesting the following. Application B 15, 2022 to sever an irregular shaped portion of property having approximately 6 meters frontage on Covered Bridge Drive and an approximate lot area of 1,707 square meters from 6 Covered Bridge Drive for the purpose of creating a new residential lot. Application B 16, 2022 to grant a 3.5 meter wide access easement to be located on the north and west sides of the existing dwelling on the proposed severed lands in favor of the proposed retained lands. The proposed severed lands, being 6 Covered Bridge Drive, will contain the existing single detached dwelling and an accessory building. The proposed retained lands contain a frame garage and will have approximately 8.8 meters frontage on Covered Bridge Drive and be approximately 11,205 square meters in area in size. Application A 13, 2022, subject to approval of the above noted consent applications, the following variances are required. Relief from section 8.3.3A to reduce the required lot frontage from 18 meters to approximately 6 meters for the proposed severed lands. Relief from section 8.3.2 to recognize the existing lot width of the proposed retained lands at approximately 8.8 meters, whereas 30 meters is required. And relief from section 8.3.3A to recognize the existing lot frontage of the proposed retained lands and approximately 8.8 meters, whereas 18 meters is required. And Nick Bogart is here as agent, and the property owner is here as well as a couple of members of the public. Nick, if you'd like to address the committee.
Thank you, Nancy. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
Excellent. Good afternoon. My name is Nick Bogart, and I'm an associate with MHBC Planning, and as Nancy mentioned, agent for the applicant. Thank you for allowing us to be here this afternoon. So I just wanted to give a quick overview of the application and a bit of the process. So the purpose of the proposal, as Nancy mentioned, is to create a new lot from the larger land holding. The existing home is currently utilized by a family member of our client, and he'd like to construct a new home to enjoy in his retirement. Due to the configuration of the property, variances are also required in addition to the severance, as is a easement to provide safe access, and that's because the existing driveway is below the flood line. The site of the proposed home has been carefully chosen to ensure it's located in a location that's acceptable relative to existing slopes on the property. There was a slope stability assessment completed by the applicant. It's also located above the surveyed flood line, and a assessment of well and septic has also been undertaken on behalf of our client to ensure that it meets applicable requirements for that. We've been working through the application process with township staff and prepared the necessary background reports, as I mentioned. And as you can see, there's been some additional feedback received from regional and also GRCA staff recently, along with a request for deferral from the region in order to complete a peer review rather, of the requested hydrogeological report. So given the comments received, we're requesting a deferral of the application to allow us the opportunity to work through things with the GRCA, the region, so that we can try and address the remaining matters. And the time period that will be utilized to meet with them, work through things. There's some additional information they've asked for, so we'll get that taken care of. And then should a satisfactory outcome not be achieved through that deferral, then we'll have to address that at this time. But I'd request that it's premature today to simply deny the application without giving us the opportunity to try and work through the comments raised that we just received over the last week and a bit. The deferral request was discussed with township and agency staff. I let the GRCA and the region both know that we were looking to proceed that route, and we'd humbly request support of the deferral also from the committee. So that was all I had for an overview. Thanks again for letting us be here today. Pleased to answer any questions. And as noted, the property owner is also here should there be any questions specific to him. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bogart. So, sorry, at this point, would we put a motion for deferral, or we don't ask questions, right, of the applicant? Tim, go ahead.
Just sort of one question for the applicant. If you do a motion for deferral, understand Robert's Rule of Order says you have a motion for deferral. You can't really discuss the application after the motion is placed. But the one question was, you're talking about 6 months. Is 6 months long enough given the amount and complexity of what you're doing? I think we're allowed to give out a deferral up to a year, and David could confirm that for us.
Through the chair, member Cronin, typically when deferrals are provided historically by the committee, they're up for a period of 6 months, but that's not to say that that can't be extended to a longer period of time. I'm not aware that we do have a limitation per se, unless our terms of reference say otherwise. I would maybe refer to Nancy if she's aware of anything that may interfere with a potential timeline based on our terms of reference.
No, I don't believe there is a restriction on that. As David noted, typically we have seen 6 months, but I think that's at the committee's discretion.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So, Mr. Bogart, I guess the question is, do you feel that 6 months is enough? Kind of Tim's question.
Our understanding was that, as mentioned, the 6 months is what was used in the past, so that was the time period we were looking for. Certainly with how things sometimes go, it might take longer to address things. So if the committee is open to it, we would certainly appreciate the 1 year delay. And then if we have everything wrapped up beforehand, then we could come back. But if the committee is open to it, we would certainly appreciate that time.
Thank you, Mr. Bogart. And was there any other questions before we make a decision of the committee? Okay. Do we speak to anybody, members of the public, on this, or Nancy, can you help me?
I think it may depend potentially on the
just,
motion you're putting forward.
but we would ask them before the motion to speak generally, right? Tim?
I'm just to make a comment, and I understand the public wants to weigh in, but I think without the other information, I think the public would be much better suited if they had the rest of the information. There's more information going through, because if there's a lot of questions being answered here, there's a whole lot of questions not, they wouldn't have all the information available. So not that, public is entitled to the word, but my feeling is if we go with deferral, that wait for all the comments until we have all the information in front of them instead of about half a story.
Okay. Linda, sorry, you had your hand up. Did you want to make a comment?
I'm prepared to make a motion. I think out of respect of the applicant and his agent, they've come forward understanding the implications of their application, and I'm prepared to put forward a request, motion based on their request that we defer applications. Let me get them all right here. Application A13 2022 and consent applications B15 and 16 2022 for a period of 1 year.
Okay. And a second?
And I will second that motion.
Thank you, Tim. And then all those in favor? And that's everybody. So the application will be deferred for up to 1 year.
And just for the public's consideration, then when that application is returned, you will then be given the opportunity to speak to the application, including all of the additional information. And as noted, then hopefully some of that additional information will answer some of your questions as well. So you will certainly be provided circulation when that occurs.
Thank you.
Okay, so that is it for the applications this evening.
Perfect.
Thank you very much, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, so then we'll look at approval for the minutes, and then everybody's had an opportunity to review them as circulated for the meeting held on April 12th, 2022. Are there any changes that are required? No. Can I have a, go ahead, Linda?
I'll make a motion that we accept the minutes from the April 2022 meeting as circulated.
Great, thank you. And Hans, you will second that?
Yep.
Great. Did we do all in favor of that one? I always forget. Okay, all
Yes.
those in favor? And that's everyone. So the meeting is passed. And then if there's nothing further to discuss, I will declare this Committee of Adjustment meeting to be adjourned. Is there anything further?
No, I have nothing further to add. David, I don't believe you have any other business at this time.
No, just again, this has been mentioned in the previous couple of meetings that we're still waiting for a resolution on the severance application for Marlborough Capital that went to the tribunal in March. So we're still awaiting a decision from the Ontario Land Tribunal on that, and we'll keep the committee updated once we hear. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it. Okay, we're adjourned. Thank you.
All right.
Linda, give me a shout sometime, would you? You have my number?
I will.
Thank you.
No. Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.